Hey everybody, how are you doing? Hoping you're all well. It's been a little while since I've seen you. Wow, what a month April has been. You know, when people pass over, when they transcend to the other side, people that you are close with, people that you have had a close soul connection with, um, there is just no doubt whatsoever that their love actually is even stronger from the other side. Of course, I'm referring to my father, who just had his birthday. I had my birthday, and yesterday was his transcendence date. So it's been a really big month for me personally. And I bring this up because there's been, again, just so many synchronicities, very, very powerful signs that have been put into play for me due to certain circumstances that have occurred in the month of April for me, which have been huge. And you will relate to it in your own way. Look at the lighting. It's just so bizarre. There's this thing I'm talking about, this energy. It's right here, right now. The point is, when you have someone who's on the other side, their power and their love is even stronger from the other side. That's a fact. There is actually an expression that says, be careful who you are messing with in this physical reality because you don't know who is on the other side watching over them. And that statement is fundamentally, absolutely true. Gospel. Ceres and Saturn and Venus, and we'll get to the new moon. This is what this video is about, by the way. The new moon in Taurus coming up, which, is, well, we'll get to that. But the last energy that we've been really processing in our own individual way is this Venus in Pisces, where she's right at the end of Pisces now, finishing up. She's had a really long journey because of her retrograde in and out of Aries and Pisces, being reborn as the morning star, Pallas Athena, not going invisible in the northern hemisphere. So her presence is almighty powerful. You just cannot, excuse the French, fuck with Pallas Athena. It's as simple as that. And when people do, they realize what she's actually about. The Ceres and the Saturn near Venus, which is still there right now, is quite a difficult passage, but it is the last final real clearing for us as we move forward into this new Venus 8-year cycle. And as we've just come out of Venus's retrograde cycle of 40 days and 40 nights. And Ceres always corresponds to loss and grief, separation, and ultimately renewal as well. But you cannot, it's a very, she's a Pluto type of energy. You cannot experience the renewal until you've experienced the death of something. Now, that can be an attitude, it can be a belief, it can be a relationship, a friendship, a job. It can be absolutely anything. The end of something is the death of something. It doesn't matter what it is. It matters in the sense of the individual you, every single one of you, but the point being that it will be something different for every single person. And that is the case with this new moon as well, which we'll get to in a minute. But I'm just really pointing out that if it's been a little bit, a bit wavy this month, it's because Saturn has been rising with Venus on the eastern horizon, which I saw them the other morning. What a glorious, glorious sight to see. I saw them rising together, and I couldn't see Ceres though, because I don't have, a telescope and so forth. So it was just with my naked eyes. But Ceres and Saturn have been very close to Venus. Venus, of course, is about all the things we love, all your relationships, all your connections, be it a friend, be it a lover, be it a family member, be it things that you love in your life, right? Things that we enjoy and make us happy and enable us to feel connected, right? Venus is the connecting principle. Saturn severs, and so does Ceres. You look at the symbols of Saturn and Ceres, they're pretty much identical but reversed. They're both they both represent that sickle, that severs things. So with Saturn and Ceres being so close to Venus pretty much all this month, there's been a lot of matters that would have come up for people where we would have had to resolve and complete and say goodbye to certain things, people, situations, and so forth. In some cases, that might be, a very difficult process. One of my clients has been a client of mine for the last 8 years. She first became a client of mine when I was working in the psychology field. Her father passed last night, and it was quite uncanny because it's the same day that my father transcended, and I've known her for 8 years. So that was the Venus Ceres Saturn for her, for instance. I've spoken to many other different people, all of whom are going through their own process of grief of some kind and process of renewal as well within themselves. So we've had to make some pretty tough choices, pretty tough decisions, I think, in this process. And it is about actually becoming very clear as we are moving forward. Although it's all happening in Pisces, Pisces can be very unclear, but the one thing that is clear is that Pisces is at the end of the wheel. So everything that's finishing and completing now is huge, because the next time Saturn will be in Pisces will be in 30 years' time. So this arrangement, this alignment is there for a very, very particular purpose. I bring it up because Saturn next to Venus can bring up a lot of matters to do with feeling alone or loneliness or feeling isolated or feeling cut off or feeling that you're not able to connect with the people that you want to connect with, or you've had to really just, set absolute 100% clear boundaries with certain things and certain people, and that may mean completely severing. I did that this month with 3 people, and it was just perfect the way it happened. It happened so organically right around my birthday. I was thinking, just as I was coming on, that I was thinking about that song by Pink Floyd. There's a few words in this particular song that says, we're just 2 lost souls swimming in a fish bowl. You might have heard of that song that has those lyrics. And I thought about that in the context of every human being on the planet, because I thought, people are still so lost. People are so eager to just gain something from you. If they can't get anything from you, if they can't get what they want from you, they don't want you anymore, or they dodge you, they ghost you, they lie to you, they play games with you, all this sort of craziness. It just goes on and on and on. And when I think about that, I think how lost people are, that this behavior just carries on and on and on and on. But I think a lot of this is coming up because of the Saturn series Venus. I could tell you stories about the month of April for me that will fucking make your mind blow, but I'm not going to go into it. I will say this though. There was one particular night where I went out and my dad spoke to me and he asked me to take something and put it in my bag, in my handbag. I won't bother telling you what it is. And that's never happened before. So I did it. And that night, I was actually at an event where a particular individual spiked my drink. And it was pretty serious because it pretty much knocked me out. But luckily, I was in a public place and I was sitting next to people, and this person couldn't do anything to me. And, you know, that is, to me, that's the lowest of the lowest of the lowest of the lowest. You know, when a particular individual tries to gain power and control over you in through sedating you. It's a drug rape type of drug thing, right? Which happens to so many young girls, I reckon, out there, who I feel really sorry for. If you have to go to those extents to feel a sense of power within yourself, you really are the lowest of the lowest of the lowest. And we must have compassion for you, because there's a real sickness going on to resort to such low behavior. So that night I took that thing with me and had it in my bag that my father, I heard his voice telling me, put this thing in your handbag. And that was the night that that happened to me. That's just one example of the incredible things that have happened to me in the month of April, which is the month where he transcended my birthday, his birthday. It's been so intense this month. And I also had a sinus infection. So now I'm back and I'm ready to start sharing again on YouTube, and also start doing, a few more charts and readings and things like that. I've been a little bit quiet this year with that sort of thing, but I'm ready to now open that back up again. So if you are interested in having a reading with me, just shoot me an email and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Now, this new moon, I'll bring up the chart and show you, but it's got a couple of distinctive things about it. And normally, a moon in Taurus is an exalted position for the moon. So the moon is, very, very lush and happy in Taurus, if the moon is in Taurus on its own. But what is happening with this new moon, which is the start of a new lunation cycle, so we're going to see this unfold over the next 4 weeks. It's connecting to Mars and Pluto, which are opposite each other. That is one of the most dangerous, most powerful aspects that can be happening in the sky and that you can have in your own birth chart. The volume and extremity of that power is so big that language cannot really describe it. And if you have it, you know what I'm talking about. And obviously, with anything, with any energy, it can be used to use black and white simple language. It can be used for good or for evil. It's as simple as that. So this is a very, very overpowering aspect that's squaring the new moon. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the new moon is at the early degrees of Taurus, which corresponds to the constellation Aries, and it corresponds to the ram's horns. And there is a particular star in the ram's horns called Hamal. And this particular star does not have a good reputation. I'll unpack that in a moment. Opposite the new moon, we have the true position of goddess Lilith. I was watching a little clip from Tom Jacobs about Lilith in the 10th house just the other day, as it came up in my Facebook feed, because I'm sort of connected in a group with his partner before he passed, the partner that he had. She's created this beautiful sort of memorial page on Facebook where she posts and shares all his work and videos. And there appears Lilith in the 10th house, that video. So I watched it, although I think I had seen it a long time ago. I have Lilith conjunct my midheaven, not only in the 10th, but right on my midheaven. So of course I wanted to remind myself of what he had said. Now I bring this up because I'm using the true position of Lilith, which I always have and I always will. And that's what Tom Jacobs advocated for as well. I call him the Lilith seer because he's the only man that I know of, publicly at least, that had the most clear and tremendous understanding of this goddess Lilith. And one expression that or one analogy that he used to describe the difference between the mean position of Lilith, which is the average position, and the true position of Lilith. The average or mean position, same thing, is what most programs have Lilith set already to be as. So if you're not aware of that, you are probably using the mean position, which just means that you have this clear, consecutive process of Lilith moving through the signs, and you're just following that, which is, in my opinion, and through the teachings of Tom Jacobs, you're not getting the real Lilith at all. You're not getting the real story. And here's the analogy he used. He said the mean average position of Lilith is like a blow-up doll. I freaking love the way this man thought. The mean position is a blow-up doll, and the true position is the real woman or the real feminine aspect of Lilith. So Lilith is involved with this new moon because she's opposite it, therefore opposite the star Hamal, and therefore also squaring the Mars Pluto. So can you see what's happening here? There's a grand cross in fixed signs with pretty tipsy-turvy energies. Now let's get to the chart and have a look at this visually, as it is very, very useful to always look at things visually. First, I just want to show you the Babylonian chart, and I want to show you the where Hamal is. Okay, so if I just grab something to highlight some things, it'll make it easier because this chart is a lot harder to read than the normal solar fire chart that we use, because there is a lot going on here. You've got all those pictures in the background are the constellations. This is Rumen Kolev's program. It's a freaking masterpiece. That's all there is to it. And it will take lifetimes to learn it all completely. It's so vast. Anyway, that's another story. But if this program does appeal to you because you want to learn about, I want to say, the true zodiac, which is the Babylonian zodiac. Not that the tropical is not true. It is true and it is valid and it works. We know that. We can see that. But the roots and the mother of the stars comes from Mesopotamia, Babylonia, period. You can't argue that. You can try. Go for it. Doesn't matter. That's what I'm going to say. That's what I'm going to stick to. That's what I know to be true. So those pictures in the background are all the constellations. So the constellations that we often ascribe to the 12 zodiac signs, right? Each one of them is, a different size. Okay, that's one thing. And let me just show you this. If I just... actually, before I do this, let me just show you. So there's the sun, okay? And there's the moon. All right. So obviously they are in sidereal or Babylonian Aries, the new moon. However, in the tropical zodiac, the new moon is in Taurus, okay? Now, there's the star Hamal, okay? Right there. So just remember the sun and the moon is there, because I'm going to remove something now just to show you the pictures. So see this little picture that I'm circling my little, what's it called? Mouse over? That's basically the ram. That's Aries, okay? And there's Hamal. You can vaguely see it, just written just where I've shot that arrow there. Okay, there's Hamal the star, and it's right in the ram's horn, okay? So the star Hamal is in the ram's horn. That's where it sits. This new moon is right on this point, okay, in terms of the constellation Aries. So that's that. I just wanted to show you visually what that looks like. Now, let me just clear the lines so that we can go to the tropical chart, which is the one that we are used to looking at. Let me see what's happening here. Okay. Bear with me. Yeah, I kind of got a whole bunch of charts here. All right, we'll just have to work with this. Let's see if I got it set. No, okay. I had it set, but never mind. We'll just do it again to the new moon, which is basically just a few hours, a couple of hours before this. So just bear with me while I make this adjustment. Anyway, that's close enough. It's about 20 minutes off or something like that. But we want it at 7 degrees. That's where it is, 7 degrees Taurus. Okay, so now let's start pointing to the things that I was mentioning before relative to this new moon so that we can see them visually. Okay, so there is the new moon, sun-moon conjunction, 7 degrees Taurus, tropical zodiac. There is Mars, 4 degrees Leo. Mars is opposite Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius. Pluto is square the sun and the moon, new moon. Mars is square the sun and the moon, new moon. And here is goddess Lilith. So she too is square Pluto, square Mars, and of course opposite the new moon. So we basically have a grand cross with this new moon cycle that's going to unfold over the next 4 weeks. And we are talking about really, really extremely powerful symbols. Let me just make a few comments about Hamal. Hamal, historically, a couple of thousand years ago, was said to be quite an evil star, actually, because a couple of thousand years ago, the Ram, the constellation, the Ram, was considered to be quite evil. It had this evil side to it, believe it or not. And a lot of that came through the Christian doctrines, okay? It's far more complex than that, but I'm just keeping it as simple as I can, just to draw some distinctions, which is what I'm trying to do. So a couple of thousand years ago, that star had a terrible reputation. That's the point. However, you know, although the myths and stories that exist from thousands of years ago, whether it's a couple or whether it's 7 or whether it's 15 or whatever it is, are still valid today. There's no two ways about it. But at the same time, we have this thing called evolution. And so we have these new experiences being born, new storylines, new historical events, so on and so forth. So we must find a way to bring it all together. We can't just look at things from a purely modern perspective and just stick to mainstream popular astrology and just say, oh, Mars is my energy and my willpower. Woohoo! You know, if you stick to that, then you might as well not even look at astrology. We've got to go to the depth and the roots of where the stars originate from, which ultimately is God anyway. But I'm talking about the stories associated to all the different stars, to the constellations relative to mythology and relative to history and scriptures and so forth. So Hamal was indeed quite an evil star, according to what has been documented. However, if we are to bring a modern, if you like, version or translation to that, the only positive thing that we could say about it would be to say that there's extreme determination with this particular star. So it evokes within an individual to really pursue and push through and smash through any challenge any conflict, any opposing force, anything. It's very, very powerful in that way. So there's extreme determination and push in this new moon cycle is what I'm getting at. Now, add to that a Mars-Pluto opposition, which is one of the most powerful aspects relative to archetypes and planets that correspond to power. Now, that power can be misused or it can be used for good purposes. It just comes down to whose hands are we talking about relative to how that energy will be integrated, therefore expressed, used, embodied, and so forth. So it is a very, very dangerous aspect, this one, in the wrong hands, let's say. So we have this really, really intense, volatile Martian Pluto energy. Now, just know this, that Pluto is Hades, which rules the underworld. Pretty much most of you would be aware of that. What most of you may not be aware of, however, is that in Babylonian astrology, Mars, whose name was Nergal, was the lord of the underworld. And in those times, Nergal, Mars, all he was interested in was creating plagues and death and misery for humans. So the malefic nature of Mars has always got a malefic nature to it in one way or another. The malefic nature of it, however, back in those times is far more severe than what we hear about these days. So I'm emphasizing this because we've got two planets that fundamentally both correspond to the underworld through different historical points and traditions and mythologies and so forth. So, you know, those two energies are opposing each other as well. And what is an opposition? An opposition is usually a polarized energy. It's two energies being polarized, right? And so these two, and neither of those, neither Pluto nor Mars, are the type of archetypes or energies that will give in, that will surrender. These guys are not about surrender. These guys are about, you know, let's blow this shit up, whatever it is. So it is very intense energy. Lilith, who's in Scorpio, this is the real Lilith, not the blow-up doll, the real one. And thanks, Tom, for that wonderful analogy and all your wonderful work. In Scorpio, you know, opposite this new moon. So what's Lilith about? Fundamentally, she is the wild, instinctual, feminine aspect that exists within every single one of us, man or woman or anything in between. It's that raw, primal, instinctual, authentic, no BS, no fucking around type of energy. And it will piss people off to the max. Because we live in a world where there's this thing called consensus reality. The majority of people subscribe to that. And if a Lilith figure walks in the door, everyone's feathers get ruffled. Nobody likes Lilith in that context that I'm describing. So Lilith stirs shit up. Simple as that. You could say she's a rebel. You could say she's a misfit. You could say she's going to stick it up everyone. She's fearless. She's going to do it her way. And I'm not saying that from an egotistical way of being some arrogant prick or some arrogant bitch. It's not about that. That's just ego nonsense, personality BS stuff. This is real primal raw truth that exists inside you. It's like If you're in a position and you're being asked to do something that you know is so freaking unnatural, like those liquid jabs that they put into people's arms, there was nothing natural about that. There was nothing necessary about that. That's a prime example. All the Liliths would have said no. I was one of them. Lilith is right on my midheaven. So when you know, when somebody, I mean, that's an extreme example, but that's a very, very significant, prominent, powerful example because of what it's resulted in collectively, right? We all know the story. You can reduce it down to a personal situation where you might be at work, in your work situation, and you're being asked to do something that it doesn't sit with you. You know it's BS, right? For whatever reason that may be, just to simplify it. And if you're the Lilith type, you're not going to conform, and you'll probably lose your job because of it. This is how it works. So when you stand in Lilith, you've got to be prepared to ruffle the feathers and go with the consequences that show up, and believe and trust that your raw instincts, that wild inner truth, that's more beautiful and more powerful than that BS that's being presented to you by whomever or by whoever. If you trust that, it will work out for you. I know because I've done it. So I'm not speaking theoretically, I'm speaking through experience relative to that example. So in the case of this new moon, I think Lilith being opposite this new moon, her energy is being pulled in order for us to actually get, more in touch with the deeper part of the raw truth within us. And this is Scorpio that she's in. You can't get much deeper than Scorpio. I mean the authentic Scorpio. I mean the depth of Scorpio, the still waters run deep Scorpio, the esoteric occult, wise Scorpio, which is like the phoenix, not the scorpion that's seeking to sting and attack because they've been hurt or they're angry or whatever the fuck it is. So Lilith brings in this energy here for us to be, we might be confronted by something that somebody says, somebody brings something to our attention that we were not aware about relative to ourselves or whatever it may be. I can give you an example. I sat with somebody the other day, had looked at this person's chart. It wasn't a reading, it was just a social encounter. But I looked at this person's chart just very quickly and just noticed a couple of things. And I made a couple of comments to this individual about a particular placement in their chart. And it was pretty basic shit, by the way. But, fair enough. To their credit, they're not aware of astrology. So to them, it's mind-blowing. I get that. And so the things that I said, because they came from a Scorpio aspect of the chart, which connected to the moon in Scorpio, conjunct Pluto in Scorpio, and so forth, it was very, very uncomfortable for that person. In fact, that person turned around and said to me, what? And I just asked a question. I asked a couple of questions. I just gave examples of how that energy might play out, for instance, right? And that person was so confronted by those questions. He literally told me, that's really confronting what you're asking me. And it just reminded me of where most people live, because I don't live there. I live in those depths all the time. And when I come out and interact with, I suppose, people that don't dwell in those depths of waters and all of that, I kind of get a bit of a shock, because I remember that, oh yeah, shit, hang on, most people don't live here, Anastasia. You've got to remember that. It's always interesting when that happens. But the point being that Lilith in Scorpio, she will be very confronting. And what's she going to be confronting about here? Well, we're talking about a Taurus new moon, which, if we just stick to the tropical zodiac Taurus and just take out Hamal for an instance, for a moment, the star, right? And just think about new moon in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, and Venus is in her exalted sign at the moment, still in this arrangement, which is favorable. But look at what's right next to her, Saturn. Ceres, North Node's fine, not a problem. Venus North Node is such a beautiful portal. Have you seen the prospect of new things blossoming in your life, new things growing, things that it could be connections, it could be things that you love, things that you want to do, things that really come from your heart, things that you really, 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 really love. That's that gorgeous Venus North Node meeting. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. Go with that. Go with that. You know, just if you've been tuning into that and you still don't know exactly where it's going, if it feels right, trust your intuition, go with that, because that is a magnificent portal of beautiful, beautiful things to come that will blossom beautifully, really over the next 8 years with the Venus 8-year cycle, actually. But getting back to the new moon being ruled by Venus, she is conjunct Saturn, right? Now, Taurus just wants to be comfortable. I love to say this, and this is no offense to any Taurians. I've known Taurians in my life. I still do. You know, if Taurus is happy if they've got food, money, and sex, it's pretty simple. It's very basic at that everyday, mundane, basic personality level. Of course, Taurus has a far more spiritual side to it, esoterically. That's another level. But just on that basic everyday level, Taurus just needs to be comfortable. It doesn't, you don't ruffle their feathers. You don't hurry them along. You don't push them to do things. They just want to chill the fuck out. So this new moon has that vibration about it as well, but it cannot do that in the way that it would like to, because it's contending with Pluto, Mars, Lilith, and its ruler Venus right next to Saturn. Saturn is a denier. What's it denying here? It's denying pleasure. Venus, pleasure, pleasures. Taurus is about pleasures. This is not going to be a cycle of pleasures, is what I'm saying. Now, how can we turn that into a potentially positive prospect moving forward over the next 4 weeks as this cycle unfolds? It's not easy, right? Let's just start right there. I'm sure you can hear that with what I've explained thus far. But if there were to be some strengths that come out of this, I would say that it would be a test of willpower, aligning with the soul's intention and willpower. So I'm talking about Mars, Pluto now. Mars, willpower, desires. Pluto, soul, unconscious desires. And we want to align those. We always want to align those. The relationship between Mars, Pluto in your birth chart, that is the aspect between them, actually shows you how that's happening in this lifetime, by the way. That's another topic. So the strengths that can come out of this could be potentially to initiate or exert a greater sense of willpower towards certain challenges that you may have or challenges that may show up. And the key component is going to be, are you going to do the Lilith thing and be really authentic and trust your instincts and not be scared of ruffling some feathers and subsequently having to have to leave certain things behind? That's what Lilith did, didn't she? When Adam said to her, no, you're going to submit to me, she said, bye-bye, au revoir. I'm going off into the wild and I'm just going to enjoy my life. See ya. That's basically what she did. So anyway, there is still a process here of things closing, is what I'm getting at as well. Okay, because even though this is a new moon, Venus is still, she's not through Pisces yet. She's getting there. Saturn's not through Pisces. Certainly by the time Venus gets back into Aries, the energy does start, it starts to shift, like a really brand new direction really starts to kick off. That has already been birthed, by the way. It was birthed when the Sun and Venus came together back on the 23rd of March around the equinox time. And subsequently after that, not long after that, I should say, we had the astrological new year, which is around 21st of March. We had the Sun-Venus conjunction, which was on the 23rd, new 8-year Venus cycle. And then we had the Babylonian New Year. These are all symbols of Aries, spring, new beginnings. You can't see what that's going to be. You know, it's that these are birthings. Things are just being born. There's seeds being born into our consciousness that do start to take shape and form by the choices that we make. That's how it always works. So this new moon, relative to just the basic new moon in Taurus, planting new seeds, new intentions, people love to hearing that blah, blah, fluff stuff. Go for it. Do your thing. Fine. But understand that it's not just a new moon in Taurus. It's got all these features to it. And in order to plant those solid foundations and seeds, which Taurus does do very, very well, you will need to do it with these guys connecting to the new moon, which is Mars, Pluto, Lilith, and the star Hamal. Now, one blind spot with the star Hamal, whilst it has that tremendous determination and push, and it can push fucking through pretty much anything, it has a blind side from the point of view, it doesn't really have any diplomatic skills. We're talking about Aries ram head first. You try and stop a ram as it's coming for you. You try and tell it to go that way or try and stop it. Ain't no fucking way you're going to be able to do that. It's just going to come head first. What's the opposite sign to Aries? Libra. That's where diplomacy sits. So those are my thoughts about the new moon. We've also had a Mercury-Neptune conjunction in Aries. That's planted some brand new seeds. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if there's been some really dodgy things that have happened to you or to lots of people. Mercury-Neptune is the classic liar, deception. Sometimes, well, not sometimes, often that's deliberate. Sometimes it can be unconscious, and at other times it can just be our own perception of what we are hearing, which ends up being a Mercury-Neptune hearing. We're not hearing it clearly. So someone could have lied to you, someone could have dodged you around. I had people dodge me around in the month of April, but that's where I got the series little hook and went, bye-bye, au revoir. So Mercury-Neptune, you might have had some issues with that from that perspective. But again, at a more positive level, that's a completely new portal. New portal. You know, we've never had in our lifetime Neptune in Aries conjunct Mercury in Aries. We've never seen that. And I'm going to come back in a few days' time and I'm going to talk about, by the time Venus gets into Aries, okay, which is just a couple of days away, she's going to conjunct Neptune. That is big, and I want to talk about that. So I'll come back to speak to that. Just one final thing with the Mercury-Neptune. Yes, it has that whole elusive deception, lying, games, scheming, all that bullshit attached to it, for sure. But it also has this ability to give birth to ideas, Mercury, dreams and ideas, dreams Neptune, ideas Mercury, of things that maybe you never thought possible before, or new little seeds of consciousness coming through, giving you, birthing new ideas into your consciousness about your life direction moving forward. It's in Aries. Aries rules the head, right? This is where our third eye sits. Mercury rules Aries in esoteric astrology. Aries has the most powerful instincts. So this is real instinctual, raw energy that can guide you to worlds that you never thought existed, or you never thought possible, or you never thought, or realities and experiences that you never thought possible. Neptune. It's quite beautiful. Alrighty, I'm going to see you guys soon. I really want to come back and speak to Venus, Neptune in Aries. That's the first time we're seeing this in, because this is the Venus star point conjunct Neptune in Aries. The Aries Venus star point, which is coming to a close, I think in 2000 and, what is it? 2030. Not far away. That'll be the end of the Aries Venus star point, which would have been in play for over 100 years. So when was the last time we had Aries, on the wheel and Neptune in Aries at the same time? Like, to figure that out would take a while, but I can tell you now, it might have even been thousands of years ago. So this is, we are really, really, really no BS talking about extraordinary new portals that we just have not ever lived. So it's exciting. It's exciting. Take care with this Mars-Pluto opposition. One other thing I'll leave you with, this Mars-Pluto opposition, which is connecting to the new moon. If you've got it, for example, running across your ascendant, descendant axes, ascendant, descendant, ascendant, me, descendant, you, others, right? That's anybody you come into contact with. That could be walking down the street, that could be your partner, that could be a consultation you have, whatever it is. It's any one-on-one interaction you have. It is a very intense, conflicting, volatile energy. If you can lay low, if Mars is on your descent, like I have this configuration right now, Pluto's on my ascendant and Mars is right on my descendant. And it's happening right now as I speak, a couple of days before the new moon. And it will run across, over the next couple of days, right? Relative to it being right on my descendant, because my descendant is 2 degrees of Leo, tropical. So I'm aware of that. And I've decided that I'm just going to lay low and stay home, keep quiet, and not place myself in a field, an environment where that Mars-Pluto can just go boom, because I don't want that or need that around me. That's the power of the wisdom of the sky, knowing these things. Sending you all much love, and I'll see you probably in a couple of days. Reach out if you want to have a reading with me. I'm really looking forward to meeting some new people as well. So yeah, see you soon.